I really surprised myself looking through our collection to get this ready. How many are English? I have 3 French, quite a few Bavarian, and believe it or not, I'm not kidding, 1 made here in America. Wow.
That's great. We're so excited to have you here today. You can see the Googlers are all so excited that you made the trip to come and see us here in Mountain View. And I'm going to ask you a few questions. We'll have questions from the audience later. We've also been collecting questions ahead of time, and actually, the first one was a bit of a joke from Ted Padron. He asked, do you have any suggestions for decorating Charlie's Cafe, which is the room that we're in?
Well, the flowers are very fancy for Charlie's Cafe.
Well, thank
They
you.
are beautiful. Succulents and orchids and roses. Very beautiful. No,
another one.
you can't decorate a place like
China,
this.
made in
It's all it's already the place, and it's so exciting to be here. I'm really happy.
It's a very functional space. It's not a very decorated space.
Look at the color.
But what I wanted to go ahead and start off with is where you started. Because I think that what a lot of people don't know, and I was surprised I got to visit your office and your studio last year, is that you actually started off as a model, a world-renowned model. We actually have this beautiful photo of Marissa when she was young. And of course, we also have the Google image search. If you type in Martha Stewart model,
What you can find is a pedestal.
and
Where did that waist go?
just stunning, just stunningly beautiful. And I guess I would love to hear the story of how you went from a model to becoming a do-it-yourself icon.
Well, before I was a model, I was actually a student.
Okay.
During high school, in order, one of 6 kids, my father was a pharmaceutical salesman, and my mother was a teacher, a 6th grade teacher, and there was no extra money to go to college. There was no extra money to buy beautiful clothes. I love beautiful clothes. My mother was quite well dressed, but she made everything, so we learned how to sew. We learned how to do all those homely things at home. But so I started modeling when I was 13 to pay for extras like college. And it was very successful because in those days college was only $3,500 a year, including room and board, and that's very cheap compared to what it is now, $55,000, $75,000, whatever. And so I did commercials, television commercials, and I did print ads and print editorial, and it was a lot of fun, and it paid $50 an hour at that time, which was a lot of money. And my commercials appeared on things like Gunsmoke and Wyatt Earp and different. So it was a very good way to earn money. So it wasn't really, and all during college too. I went to Barnard College at Columbia University, and that time too I was modeling.
And then how did you make the transition from model to having your own, to having your own show, and to being really a do-it-yourself?
Well, after college and during college, I was my father-in-law happened to be a stockbroker. He owned a seat on the New York Stock Exchange, and I got interested in investing. It was as interesting then, really, as it is now. Although the money wasn't great, but you could, if you invested in McDonald's, for example, in the early days. That was one of the most successful investments. Or a thing like, it was called Lisco Data Processing. Very good investment if you bought warrants on warrants. And you invested kind of crazily, like my little firm that I belonged to. I became a stockbroker right after college because I thought that would be an interesting way to learn about business. And it was, because I learned about how a good company or even a bad company functioned. But this is before big time technology. And I gave up the stock market after about an 8-year career, which I loved very much. And I started a catering business. The catering is what led me into the lifestyle business and the writing of my first book in 1982.
And so how did Martha Stewart living on the media get started?
Well, I wanted to, I had so many ideas for lifestyle, and I realized that there were voids in the media world. There was no one book, for example, like entertaining, that would teach you really the basic tenets of good home entertaining. There was no great garden book. There was no great, and these are illustrated books. I loved photography. I loved colored photography especially. And so I went to my publisher and I said, I'd like to do a whole series of beautiful how-to books. So people could really learn how to do everything. And they said, it's all right, but you just keep writing your book a year, and I was writing a book a year. So then I went to Cy Newhouse, who was the head of Condé Nast Publishing, and I told him my idea, and he said, well, that sounds like a magazine. And so I gave him a proposal for a magazine, and then it went on from there. So I started Martha Stewart Living, the magazine, not with Condé Nast, but with Time Warner in 1990. And from there, everything else has grown, especially the idea of synergy between media, television, bringing all kinds of media together. And then, of course, internet, and then merchandising.
You can see the whole array of different magazines.
Yeah, those are
even all of them.
Yeah, you're missing Everyday Food magazine, smaller magazine.
So, what were the early days at Martha Stewart Living like?
Well, it was so much fun. We consider ourselves a microcosm of a big media company, Time Warner. And we were very proud of being that microcosm. We were put on the most unfriendly floor in the Time Warner Tower on 6th Avenue. Below us was all the mechanics of the building. So my feet were warm because it was a hot floor and probably an unhealthy floor. I hated it. The windows didn't open. We were on the 50-something floor, and you wouldn't want your windows to open up there. So it was unhealthy in that respect. No fresh air, hermetically sealed. And ever since that little time, I stayed in that office for about a year and a half, and I begged to move. And we found a space that with windows that open, with fresh air, with natural gas for the stoves for our kitchens. All that meant a lot with me. Sunlight, daylight. It was important. It was very important. And ever since then, you've been to our office, and you know that we have sunlight and daylight, much like you have out here, only much smaller.
Absolutely exquisite.
Well, you're here in Silicon Valley, and it's the heart of innovation, and you're one of the few people in the world who's actually defined an industry. So, what words of advice do you have for young entrepreneurs as to how they might try and do the same? We have a lot of people here who are entrepreneurs within Google and trying to build new businesses, define new categories themselves.
Well, again, it's finding a void, I think, in your area of interest and expertise, finding that void that other people really also consider a void, and building in that void something that is so original and so enticing and so desirable that many other people will have to come there. I mean, that's what Google is. I mean, you had to come to Google. I mean, there was no choice. There was no other way. There were other companies, but it was by far the most interesting place to go. I was an early adapter or adopter of technology, and I bought my first computer. It doesn't sound like very long ago, but 1982, I bought my first IBM computer. A PC. I still have it, and I haven't plugged it in. I haven't even tried, but I still have it. That silly looking little thing. But it was so interesting what was going on, and I've tried to keep up. I know there's lots I don't know, but as much as I can, I keep up with the newest, and I watch with interest the new IPOs that are happening, like the Groupon this morning. And testing the waters for what else we are going to be distracted with in our quest for our own particular interests, right? There's a lot of distracting stuff out there.
It's interesting. We're 1.5 miles just up down the road from the Computer History Museum, which always to me seems like an oxymoron because it's such a short history. It's really amazing to see
it's
how
like
those
a fragment of time.
So, what are the three, if you had to name 3 really important lessons that you've learned throughout evolving your business? You've been so successful. what are our three of the most important lessons?
Well, finding that niche that interests you and will interest others. That's one very, and a niche. A niche can be as big as the Grand Canyon. You know, it's not has to be. It doesn't have to be a tiny little space. It can be a giant space. And then creating content or something to fill that cavern or canyon with something really valuable and well made. And it can be pretty too, like your beautiful Google Maps, like your so many things that you find on the internet that are appealing to the eye but understandable at the same time. And then third, just continue with it, and don't forget to look elsewhere. Don't forget to look at what's coming up behind you, what's coming in front of you. Always keeping as current as possible.
Okay, and you have so much variety in your business. There's cooking, there's crafting, there's organizing, there's weddings, there's blogging, there's tweeting, there's the TV show, there's the radio show. How do you decide to go into a new area? How do you decide to explore a new venture?
Well, we were very avid explorers in all kinds of media in the first place. We were also very avid in exploring retail business, merchandising businesses, and we continue to be so. Although we now know that you cannot, even as a corporation, do every single thing that you want to do, and you must concentrate on those areas that are really the most profitable, the most interesting, the most have the most future, have the most growth potential. So that's what we're doing now is figuring out with our company, our small company, what really we should be focusing on.
That's what the perforations are.
Okay, well, we have a little video I'd like to show, because one of the things we've seen is that users are constantly Googling you. They're constantly Googling you, your crafts, your ideas, your recipes, the products, and so you can just see there's just so much inspiration, and you've gone to great lengths to make all of your content really accessible online.
Yes, we have.
And I guess I'd like to talk about.
Have you made a croquembouche?
I have not. Unfortunately, I can't really cook, but my husband is a fabulous cook.
Do you embroider?
I do embroider. I do. Like especially plastics. I do like to sew, and I like to do crafts with LEDs. But so I like to do like light displays and things. But people have just obviously been so inspired by what you've done, and part of it is that you've made so much of what you do really accessible to them through the internet. So I thought I'd like you to talk a little bit about how the internet has changed your business, how it's made you more accessible to users.
Well, it's changed it tremendously, and we want to be where our customers need and want us, and more of our customers really do want us on the internet. As the population of tablet owners grows, we were very aware of that, and we wanted to be there with the best apps possible. I wish we had a picture of the app, the Martha Stewart Living app. That we should have put up.
Sorry.
Yes. But if you have a chance to look at it, I suggest you look at it. The first issue of Martha Stewart Living that went up was a specially prepared issue for the iPad, and but it is so amazing how you can transform a print magazine into something alive and vibrant, more vibrant than the real printed magazine. And now every month we prepare tablet versions of our magazines, two of them, Everyday Food and Martha Stewart Living. And the people who work, the editors who work on these apps are very happy working on them. They love creating the imagery, which is a little different from print photographs, but the photographers love it, the editors love it, the writers love it, and the users love it. They love looking at it. So we're doing that. We have a couple of fantastic apps, a cookie app, a cupcake app, which a drinks app. That's a really good one. If you're when you get home from work on a Friday night, that's a good one to go to for some inspiration. So we're doing that. We're working very hard to get across. I do a daily blog which reaches about, on average maybe 500,000 or 600,000 page views a day, which for a blog and one of 12 blogs in our company is pretty good. But people get to know you. They get to understand the value of what you're trying to set forth. And I like that. It's a personal. My blog is a pretty personal blog. The economics are very favorable. And I wondered, how would it do? Well, actually, the Nooks are selling well, and the subscriptions via the Nooks are selling well. And so we have to figure it out. Advertisers haven't figured it out yet. Publishers haven't figured it out yet. Maybe Google has answers for me today about what's going to happen here. But we're in a very important stage of transition right now with media especially. Where are you going to access your information regularly? Is it going to be in that beautiful magazine that you can open and page through, or is it going to be on your tablet? We don't know for sure yet, but I can see sort of where it's going.
Yeah, we have some very exciting demos to show you later today. But yes, I think we're all really excited about tablets, particularly Android tablets.
Yeah, and I said to somebody, yes, well, I don't have one yet.
Well, we'll make sure we change that today. We can hook you up with an Android tablet. We've got a few of those.
I had one in Italian. That didn't do so well. But yesterday I was talking to one of my publishers who's traveling with me on this book tour, and I was saying, I have all my books in one place now. I don't have to have a suitcase just to carry the books that I'm reading. And I used to read one book from cover to cover, and I wouldn't pick up another book, Marissa, until I finished that book. And I knew I was finished with it. But now, with the tablet, you can put in any number, hundreds and hundreds of books, and just pick up where you left off on any number of books. And it's confusing.
It's confusing and it's convenient, but I'm the same way. If
it's very convenient,
I have to finish
but it is confusing.
But it is nice to actually be able to jump around between the books. So on the topic of the blog, one of the interesting things you've done is you've created Martha's Circle, which is actually a community of bloggers that interact with you. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? What inspired you? What are some of the interesting things that have happened in Martha's Circle?
Well, we like other bloggers. We've done programs on our television show of just an audience full of bloggers. And we let them blog all during the show, and it's a lot of fun. But blogging is kind of a wonderful way to communicate with a vast audience, and to get a vast number of opinions about something. And it's so much fun to see who's doing really well in the blogosphere, who isn't. We try to put in our circle bloggers who are actually sort of in tune with what we're doing, maybe even more avant-garde or less, just to bring a community together, a bigger community.
That's great. Well, let's talk a little bit about the television show. Over the years, I think you've had everybody. And so you get these amazing celebrities, and you get them all to do crafts and teach them cooking and everything else. Who have been the most entertaining? Do you have some favorite guests?
Well, last week I had Hugh Jackman on, and I had just seen his new movie Real Steel, which. Well, it depends if you like robots or not. Luckily, I had seen it, and he is charming, absolutely charming, and very self-effacing, and a very talented man. He happens to live across the street, and his windows are in direct view of my daughter's apartment, so we can sort of watch him and say we wave to each other when he's in there. So I knew everything he was doing in his apartment, and he knows everything that my daughter's doing in her apartment. That was fun, but he's a great guy, and that guests like that who are very sort of proactive and get into the segment that we're trying to do. Some actors really are actors, and they don't, unless they have a script and a director, they really can't do anything. I mean, wow. They even admit. I mean, one actor said to me, I said, gosh, that scene in the Cherry Orchard, a Chekhov play. I said, gosh, you talk about cherry trees like so knowledgeable. He said, I don't know how to fuck about cherry trees. Chekhov wrote the words, I just act them, you know, and it's fun.
Still in frame.
Is there a biggest or funniest mishap that's happened on the TV show?
Really?
Mishaps happen all the time, and the more mishaps, and with comedians especially, because they make mishaps happen. Seth Meyers, for example. Seth always makes something bad happen. And Conan is very funny, and Jimmy Fallon.
So let's talk a little bit about the book. So the first book I have here, so this was entertaining. It was your first book.
Very first.
Huge bestseller, inspired, I guess, all the books that came after it. And now your new book is a revisiting it.
Yeah, it's not a sequel. It's not, because it's quite different, actually. And the first one was a textbook on how to entertain, a picture book with beautiful visuals, and a recipe book. And this book is really more, I think, more cohesive. And the first book had a lot of parties that I was catering at the time. And this one is really all personal parties. And I also had Betsy Hawes, Elizabeth Hawes, help me write that first book. And I didn't know how to write a book. I had never written a book when I wrote that in 1982. And she was such a good teacher. And that's another thing that anybody contemplating writing or creating something like that is, if you don't know how to do it, find somebody who does know how to do it and can kind of teach you the method. That's why we go to school. I mean, but I hadn't taken a writing course. So I found my voice doing that book, and I was so happy that I did. And this one, I wrote every single word. And I write final text if I can. I think about it a lot. And we took the pictures for 4 years. So during that time, I sort of knew what I was going to say. And then I sat down last Christmas and took until I finished on my third floor craft room and wrote away. So there it is.
And how did you decide what to include in the book?
Well, we took pictures. We created a whole bunch of fabulous parties, invited real people, friends and family and guests and colleagues, and photographed them, and then designed the book, and then wrote the recipes, and then wrote the book. So there was a lot left on the kitchen floor.
Why would you bother with that?
Those stories I hope will maybe make the next book.
Is there one celebration in there that just stands out in your mind as your absolute favorite?
Well, I like Easter a lot with Easter bunnies. Those are fun. Those are fun and memorable events.
Well, one of the things is, you do a lot with the holidays. How do you make the holidays fresh year after year? How do you reinvent them and keep them excited?
Well, when I was doing my proposal for the magazine with Time Warner, I remember meeting with the big honchos, and I showed them a prototype for a July issue. And July, of course, includes July 4th. And they said, well, this is all great, but what the heck are you going to do next year? Because they thought it was finished. And I said, I think we could probably not repeat ourselves for 20 or 30 years with all the ideas. It's about having creative teams, about making up new ideas, making up new ways to celebrate traditional things. And that's what we do all the time.
That's cool.